Hi, this is Allie. I started my project, I based it off of this artist called Robert T. Barrett, and I was also influenced by this big old Star Wars mural. So I wanted to do a mural like that for myself, so I set up a bunch of papers, and I decided to make a project on Fayette. So I did a whole bunch of research to figure out what to put in my mural, and I ended up picking about 11 subjects, and I would write them down on the sticky note on there. And I included a whole bunch of the research that I'd done throughout the year of events and people and places that took place in Fayette. So I had to find a bunch of references for the people. So the important people that helped further the church, like you'll see Emma, Peter Whitmer, Sidney Rigdon, all of the Whitmers really. Parley P. Pratt, the Knights, Joseph Smith. So all of them needed to have photo references so that I could illustrate them a little bit more accurately. I also did that for my backgrounds, and here's what all of my research ended up looking like. So I had the topic and then beneath what I would illustrate. And then I got to it. So I started by sketching. It's just a super light sketch, really quick. Here's an example of what I did. I'd pick my sticky paper, reference what I'd written about it, find the people and what they looked like, and sometimes they didn't even have photos, so that was interesting. But I'd use the photos that I could find to draw. A lot of the times I'd have to just use their general facial proportions and things, and some of their most characteristic hairstyles, that's especially the expressive. I included the title that I wrote on the sticky note on the actual papers when I finished. And I would do this process over and over. So I had 12 pages in my mural, so I ended up illustrating 11 entire different illustrations. And I'll show you all of them at the end. So most of what I did ended up being research in the beginning weeks. I referenced the Doctrine and Covenants a lot, a few outside sources, Revelations in Context, talks, a few other outside of the church documents that I thought were pretty accurate, especially the ones that weren't recorded in the Doctrine and Covenants, the stories like how Sister Whitmer saw the plates and things. There were some artistic liberties I took, like the church wasn't actually held outside, even though that's how it looks. I just needed to draw Father Whitmer's home, and so it appeared like they were outside. So there were some artistic liberties. But when I finished, it was really fulfilling. I had a whole mural that was pretty much the size of my door. Illustrating it alone, besides the research, took maybe 8 hours. And the research was even longer than the illustration, I think. So it was a lot of work, but I think it turned out okay. Small little parts that make up the mural. So we start with, upon you, my fellow servants, baptism in the priesthood. They were in the woods, 15th of May, 1829, and the keys of the priesthood were restored. By the mouth of 2 or more witnesses, the 3 witnesses, so it was signed in the Whitmer home. Martin Harris had to go off by himself because he wasn't worthy, but an angel appeared to the rest of them. There's a voice out of the heavens that commanded them to bear record of the plates as Moroni flipped through them, and they saw the engravings in June 1829. The keys of the kingdom, or the full priesthood restoration, including the Melchizedek, was on the banks of the Susquehanna River. Peter, James, and John came and restored the priesthood to Joseph and Oliver, sometime before the restoration of the church. The Church of Christ was established coming out of the wilderness. They used the Book of Mormon as a guide. It was in the Whitmer home. There were 6 original members. April 6, 1830, they baptized people, including Joseph Smith's parents, and passed the sacrament. This is just the title card, Fayette, New York. The first conference of the church was on June 9th, 1830. A bunch of people were ordained elders and priests. Oliver Cowdery kept the minutes. Oh, and Newell Knight actually saw a vision of the Savior, and they introduced the Articles and Covenants of the church. Section 28 of the Doctrine and Covenants teaches us who can receive revelation for the church, and that is only God's chosen prophet. We figured that out through Hiram's page and his seer stone in 1830. The Whitmers were a very influential family. A lot of things took place at their house. They took in Joseph and then Oliver during the time of the translation of the Bible and the last of the Book of Mormon. David Whitmer saw many miracles as they brought Joseph and Oliver to their home, and Mary Whitner was able to see the plates. The second conference of the church specifically was Section 29, and it showed the signs of the second coming. They used the allegory of Christ being a hen gathering his sheep. There's a very temple-centered message in the 12 would judge Israel. There were a lot of revelations given in Fayette that called people to serve and preach to the Native Americans, including Oliver Cowdery, Parley P. Pratt, Ziba Peterson, and they would take the Book of Mormon to them in 1830. A restoration of all things included the translation of the Bible. Oliver Cowdery, John Whitmer, and Sidney Rigdon were all scribes for Joseph Smith, and they got revelations oftentimes in answer to prayer. On January 2nd, 1831, the third conference of the church was held, and it was announced that there was a call to Ohio. The saints were promised a land of milk and honey, although some thought Joseph was doing it for his own gain, while others didn't want to lose their farm. So that was a crash course of everything that happened and the revelations that are recorded in Doctrine and Covenants in Fayette. And that is my entire restoration project. I hope you enjoyed.